Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are doing my first review back in Sweden, and I've got the perfect beer to kind of kick things off again. So this one is half Scottish, half Swedish. The Scottish brewery is the home one in this case, so for the Scottish side of things we're going back to Aberdeen where I used to study chemistry. So this is a beer brewed by Fierce Beer Company from Dyce just outside of the city, and it's a collaboration that they did with Bryggeri, who are from just outside of Gothenburg, Untappd, as you'd say in Swedish. This one is called the Wee Fierce Dugas. It comes in at 9% ABV and it is a barrel aged wee heavy, so should be a really pretty damn good beer this one. It had 94 overall on Rate Beer when I checked out earlier, and the Untappd ratings were well into the 4s as well when I checked out. But two very good breweries involved in this one. I've had great experiences when I've reviewed beers from both before, so I'm sure this will be a really pretty interesting beer. I always love reviewing Scotch ales for you, and there's not that many of them about these days, and it's cool to find another one from my homeland, if you like. I've tried a few from quite random places actually, so definitely looking forward to this, and as always I hope you enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done both from Fierce Beer and from Bryggeri. No doubt I'll do some more from both in the near future. I know for a fact actually that you've got Fierce Beer reviews coming up. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers and for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Fierce Beer first off then, so onto my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, Fierce Beer are based in Dyce in Aberdeen, and they began life as the homebrewing experiments of David Grant, who had worked for many years in the oil industry. So he'd been homebrewing since March of 2013, and after hosting a beer and food pairing dinner at his house in May 2015, his beer received really rave reviews, and this really prompted him to to bite the bullet, if you like, and actually turn into a professional brewer. So Dave's joined at the brewery by Dave McGarry, who also worked in the oil industry, but he used his redundancy package to put himself on a brewing course at Brew Lab down in Sunderland. So in April 2016 they moved into their brewery in Kirkhall Industrial Estate in Dyce, which is just to the northwest of Aberdeen, very close to the airport actually, and at the moment they can brew around 800,000 litres of beer per year. They started canning some of their beers in early 2018, and they now have their own bar on Ship Row in Aberdeen as well, which is called the Fierce Bar, and they've got a really good selection of beers in there as well. But apparently they want to move their brewery to a more central location in the city and have a big brewery kind of and restaurant type thing. So hopefully they can find that. There's a few industrial properties in Aberdeen that could be quite nicely converted for them, so I really do wish them well in that endeavour. But Fierce Beer are pretty cool because they're kind of taking up the gap that's been left by Brewdog recently. Of course, Brewdog have gone on to become quite a big sort of corporate entity, if you like, and Fierce Beer are getting in there and being the kind of craft brewery of Aberdeen, if you like. But you also have 6 Degrees North, who are from Stonehaven just to the south. They are a specialist brewery in Belgian beers, of course, but Aberdeen is well known as being quite a craft beer city. So if you go to Scotland, definitely check it out. There's definitely some really good craft beers to be had there, and you're actually just on the edge of Speyside as well, which is a really good whisky region. But Fierce Beer are one of the Scottish breweries I really do recommend that you check out. But that's all you need to know about them. If you want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and stuff like this as well. So anyway, onto the Swedish side of the beer then, onto Bryggeri. So Bryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Landvetter, which is just on the outskirts of Gothenburg, Göteborg you should say in Swedish, and the brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal by Mikael Engström Duga, and their beers entered Systembolaget back in 2007. So these guys are actually one of the older Swedish craft breweries on the market. They've been around for 11 years, but due to the renaissance enjoyed by the Swedish craft beer in recent years, the brewery very quickly outgrew their original brewery, so they moved to Landvetter. But the older brewery had a capacity of only 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year, and they used their old brew kit actually for product development, for basically making their new beers and doing pilot batches and stuff like this. But the new brewery was originally equipped with a larger kit, and it had a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres, but this has since been upgraded further. They had bought a Chinese brew kit that was brewing something like 3,000 litres per brew. But the guys at Dyce are also involved in the Brewers Bar in Gothenburg, which is one of the places that you really do want to check out. I think Stigbergets are involved in that as well, and Bearded Rabbit and a couple of the other ones as well. The Brewers Bar in Gothenburg is the place that you really want to go, and a lot of Swedish beer geeks really regard Gothenburg as Sweden's craft beer city, of course. Down here in the south of Sweden, I'm actually very close to Copenhagen, which for me is one of the best beer cities in the world, but I do still need to go up to Gothenburg and have a little explore of that, because I've heard some very, very good things. So hopefully that's something that I can do now that I'm earning a wage in Sweden, which is really, really great. So yeah, Dyce Bryggeri, I would say they do some awesome imperial stouts, they do some really nice kind of fruit sour beers as well, and they've done a couple of really good IPAs as well. They seem to kind of focus on the sort of top fermenting beers, if you like. That seems to be their speciality, but a very, very good brewery, and probably one of the better known Swedish craft breweries these days. Dyce are one of the ones that are actually starting to export fairly far and wide, so definitely check them out if you're interested in Swedish craft beer. But that's all you really need to know about them. Check out the brewery website again in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and see what they're doing. They are quite a prolific brewery, but in Sweden, of course, you have the nationalised system, so it can be a little bit difficult to get a hold of some of their beers. But yeah, as I say, both breweries involved in this one are really pretty good, and I'm looking forward to trying this beer. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. There you can see, there is the Fierce Beer symbol on this one, and there's the crossover and the Dyce Bryggeri as well. So as I say, Wee Fierce Dyce. On the back here it says, what started out as a tasty Scottish wee heavy brewed with Swedish expertise was then aged in a combination of Speyside whisky, American bourbon and French oak barrels that had been used to mature English wine. Expect a smooth, full body with vanilla, red berries and a long finish of sweet barley sugar. It says on the side, yeah, it tells you a little bit about Fierce on the side there if you want to have a little look at that. One thing I noticed about this beer actually when I had it was that it went out of date on the 22nd of February 2018. Now I actually bought this beer in Manchester sometime in April, or around that, so when I bought this beer it was actually out of date in the shop, and I never noticed that. But see, in fairness, when it comes to a Scotch ale at 9%, Scotch ales are, it's really difficult for a Scotch ale to, you know, turn bad, if you like. Usually they are pretty good at staying, staying drinkable and things like that. So I'm sure this beer will be absolutely fine. Very confident of it, in fact. So there you can see, there is the Fierce Beer symbol on this one, the nice kind of demon hop cone, if you like, or hop flower. But yeah, really nice looking beer, this one. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. Really looking forward to this beer. You can see, nice little bit of smoky opening there, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, as soon as you open that up, you can smell some of those lovely dark brown sugars coming out of it, and some of the nice oaky bourbon quality as well. So yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from a Scotch ale, this guy's poured a really nice dark, if I hold it up to the light, it's poured a really nice dark, sort of chestnutty, mahogany colour. You can smell some of these lovely red fruity esters coming off this one. It does have a little bit of a kind of boozy cherry quality to it actually as you're moving it around, but look at that, that's a lovely looking beer. I'd say yeah, in terms of the colour, definitely a nice dark chestnutty sort of mahogany colour coming out of this one. I think the beer, it is quite hazy actually, and you know, when the beer is, it's probably, I would say it's about two or so years old, usually a Scotch ale, and I think Fierce beer, depending when it's the darker styles, they usually recommend 2 years as a shelf life with this one, but this beer will be absolutely fine. No two doubts about that. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little bubbles heading up towards the bottom of that head there. The head's faded away just to be a very, very thin foamy layer, and in terms of colour, I would say the head is a sort of fawn, sort of beigey, light fawn kind of beigey colour with this one, but it looks very, very nice. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh, right. Aroma of this beer is absolutely beautiful. It's got this huge brown sugar and vanilla component to it. It smells absolutely lovely. I'd be very curious as to how they put this beer together, if they took different portions of it and put them all in the different barrels, if that makes sense. and then sort of blended it together. I'd be interested if they just put it on a big tank and blended it up for a few hours afterwards, but you know, aged it separately. I would assume that's what they would have to do to have it aged in 4 barrels, if that makes sense, unless they did a sequence and moved it between different things. Because in fairness, doing that in itself would be quite a challenging exercise actually. But this beer smells absolutely beautiful. So yeah, big brown sugars to this one, some caramel, treacle. It's definitely got a little bit of that lighter sweet caramel, but at the same time it's got the slightly darker treacle, or molasses as the Americans would call it. Yeah, definitely some boozy elements to that. A lot of nice oaky qualities. Vanilla's definitely coming out of this one. Nice sweet oaky qualities. You can smell there's a little touch of a bready note to this one, but mainly it's woody and vanilla. Oaky and vanilla. Some nutty notes in there as well. Lots of brown sugars. Not even getting biscuit out of this one, it's straight up just syrupy caramel. The red fruits in this one are interesting as well. It's got a little bit of that candied red fruit to it. You've got a little bit of a kind of figgy, raisiny note, but for me it's got that kind of, it's almost got a little bit of a cherry to it, but when it's aged in red, in sort of wine barrels, or barrels that have been infused with wine, you know, you would expect a little bit of that vinous quality, but for me, you can pick up a little bit of that, but overall it does smell more like a kind of juicy fruit, if that makes sense, rather than that kind of tart quality that you can sometimes get. But yeah, it's a beautiful smelling beer that. There's a little bit, maybe a little touch of earthiness from the hops in there as well. But overall, that's one of the most interesting aromas I've come across in a beer in a while. It smells absolutely lovely. So if you get the chance to try this beer, I'm not sure if you will at this stage, because I'm suspecting this is a beer that's been brewed maybe about 2 years ago. If you do get the chance to try this one, then definitely just enjoy the aroma. It smells lovely. I could sit and smell that all day, but we need to have a taste of this beer now, which is such a shame, of course. But yeah, so this one is the Wee Fair Stugas, a collaboration beer between Fierce Beer from Aberdeen in Scotland and Dyce Bryggeri from Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden. So let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, skål. Yeah, that's a top quality beer. It really is very, very nice, that. As I always say with these darker beer styles, just let your palate kind of adjust to them as you go along. This one, when it comes in, it's got a little bit of that kind of winey, tart character to it, but then it just evolves a little bit more, and that's when you start to get the brown sugars and all of that kind of barrel-aged complexity to it. That is a bloody good beer, that. So well done to both parties involved in this one. I guess it's probably only got better with the age on it, actually, I would say that. That's lovely. So yeah, let's just try and break this one down a little bit. So in the middle of your palate, you can feel there is a little bit of a kind of, there is a slight bready note to this one. You can feel the malty quality, it's just that nice smooth malt, just blanket the middle of your palate. On top of that, you get the brown sugars, you can feel the nice, you can feel that kind of darker caramel note right in the middle of your palate, that sort of dark, almost treacle molasses, and it just gradually sweetens up as you move from the centre of your palate outwards. You can feel the nice oily caramel in there. There's a little bit of a kind of sweeter biscuity note to this one, which is nice as you get out towards the edge of the tongue, and the biscuity qualities come out as you get further and further into the aftertaste of the beer as well. It is really nice. Yeah, the thing is, you can feel it comes in and it's got a little bit of sharpness to it, but then it just smooths out. That's when you get the nice oaky flavours in there, and the vanilla starts to take over. And you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of the beer. The vanilla just starts to dominate the mouthfeel a little bit, and you can feel just towards the front of your tongue there's a nice little bit of vanilla, of nutty quality in there as well. Actually, there's a lot going on in this beer, but you know, a Scotch ale is always the Scotch ale is always a complex style of beer. in the flavour, you can detect that little bit of winey quality to this beer as well, or vinous quality, I guess you would say. Hops are pretty much as you would expect. Back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of bitterness and earthiness, but it's quite minimal actually. There's not a lot of IBU to this beer. As you come further forward, the bitterness just kind of fades away and it smooths out, but that earthy flavour just kind of stays there, and then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of a slightly lighter grassy note, but at the same time it's almost just a little touch. You can still detect a little bit of that earthiness, and of course just when you go behind the front curve of the palate there, you get that little oily bubble where those nice juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. The red fruits in this one I would say are quite dark actually. Yeah, you can feel that kind of vinous quality, that red grapey vinous quality. In fairness, it's not even, I don't think that's red wine actually, it's too dry to be a sort of red wine I think that they've aged this one in. Most English wines from what I remember tend to be white from what I remember, from what I can kind of gather. So this one, it's quite interesting. There is a little touch of a red fruity quality to this one. I mean, you've got that kind of candied red fruity flavour in there, but you've got a little bit of that raisin sharpness, and maybe it's not quite plums, but there's maybe just a little touch of a kind of almost cherry note to this beer, which is interesting. But you have got a little bit of that, not quite sour, but you've got a little bit of that kind of green grapey, tarty citrus kind of thing coming out of this beer. You can feel that around the edge of your tongue, you can feel that slightly wetter quality on the edge of your tongue there. But yeah, that's a nice beer. It's you know, I was expecting something pretty special when, you know, these two got together, but it really has kind of surpassed what I thought it was going to be. It's got a lot more complexity to it. I thought it was going to be a kind of straight up American type Scotch ale with a lot of malty sweetness and things, but the barrel aging of this one just has made it a really very, very special beer. This is one of my favourite ones I think that I've reviewed on the channel actually. I would go that far with it. It's really interesting. I mean, and to be fair, you know, the Scotch ales for me, as I've mentioned to you, are quite, almost, not quite nostalgic, but they're quite, I always really enjoy reviewing these ones, and this one I would say, the old Parochio that I had from Tempest was really good. I mean, there was the one that I had from Bodebrown that Fabrizio gave me as well. That was a really awesome Scotch ale too. This one is easily up there, and it's always interesting because they all have their own different characteristics and things like that. I had the Cranachan, which was Buxton Brewery. So that was a collaboration that they did, and I really enjoyed that. But this is another really, really good beer. Buxton and Cromarty actually were involved in that Scotch ale, but for me, this one really is very nice. It's a little bit less tart than that Cranachan one that you saw me review a little while back, but this is a really, really good beer, and I'm glad I was able to review this one for you here. So I hope I hope you've enjoyed my, pardon me, taking the flavours of this one. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would say definitely a full-bodied beer. Yeah, full-bodied, carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel has a good balance between, it is oily, but at the same time it still does have a little bit of wetness to it, which is quite interesting. The malt base in this is really, really smooth. The brown sugars come out, you know, just beautifully in this beer. And then when you go into the aftertaste, it's a bit of that woodiness, that oaky quality in the vanilla that just linger there, but in the middle of your palate you've got some of those nice brown sugars as well. The hops are very smooth, there's a little touch of bitterness to it. The fruity quality to this one's interesting because you've got a little bit of that red fruit that you'd expect from the Scotch ale, but I think there's a little bit of that almost slightly tart, green grapey sort of thing from the wine barrel aging in this one adding to it, so it's got a real bit of complexity to it, but lovely fruity qualities, nice sweet malts, but also very, very smooth, and just a little touch of a hoppy smoothness in there as well. But a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. There's not much else you can really say about that. I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you, so I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it as well. So let's leave it at that with this one. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below if you've tried it. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Fierce Beer and from Dyce as well. You will see more reviews from Fierce Beer definitely, and I'm sure I've not filmed any yet, but I'm sure you will see some from Dyce fairly soon as well. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Over the next little while, you will see reviews that have been filmed in Scotland, Durham, and of course more from here in Sweden as well. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of videos backtracked that need to get put up over the next little while, but you'll see a variety of things. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was the Way Fierce Dyce, a collaboration Scotch ale, barrel-aged Scotch ale, between Fierce Beer from Aberdeen in Scotland and Dyce Bryggeri from Landvetter just outside Gothenburg here in Sweden. Until the next time, it's Lange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål!